Sounds like a plan.
All right, looks like we're live. So, thank you guys for being a part of this third series. I know it seems like it's been a long 3 months, to say the least, let alone a whole, long 2020 into now 2021. So, but really appreciate everybody being here and being a part of this. And just kind of talking a little bit about where we've been to where we're at right now. So just to kind of recap what we've done in the first two series here. The first series kind of encompassed, looking at, guardianship, but a different way. And I know Josh, who's on the call, he's done a great job. So thank you, Josh, too. But he's done a great job of kind of leading that conversation of guardianship. We hear a lot about that, but there seems to be other different ways, and kind of introducing this new concept of looking at all the other alternatives to guardianship, and looking at, how do we kind of have that conversation, and what does that kind of look like? And then kind of in that part two, Josh helped us with kind of diving deeper into what are those alternatives, kind of looking at those different things associated with, health. If somebody has some healthcare needs, can we look at doing power of attorney, or do we need to look at release of information? So that way, again, parents, friends, family are somehow still involved in that process. If we're looking at finances, do we look at payship? Do we look at adding somebody onto a bank account? So, I think Josh provided some great kind of tools and different information for us to look at, as well as looking at that happy safeguard or guard grid, that we had some great examples of kind of walking through some different scenarios of, with somebody, and kind of, where does that kind of fit on that, safe and happy kind of pendulum, to help support somebody with what it is that they want to do in their life. So, and that's kind of led us into tonight, where we kind of want to talk about and have some conversations of how people are being supported in their decision-making process, and give some kind of real life examples. One thing that we've kind of learned through this process when we talk about supported decision-making, I think that's kind of more, it is more of a paradigm shift than what we're used to. But it's not that terminology we haven't really been using around, at least here in Fairfield County, but around the country. This is just something new. But to some extent, we've always been doing some kind of decision making, or helping in that supported decision making process for the folks that we have the opportunity of serving. So tonight we do have some family members, we have some individuals that would be able to kind of speak to that piece of things, of how they are supported. Again, some of it may be that they are guardian. Some of it is that individual just has that family input, and that family helps kind of that decision-making process with that person, whatever kind of that decision is. So again, I appreciate everybody being on here. So I know Lisa, we'll kind of start talking with you a little bit, and I'll kind of ask you some different questions. And feel free to kind of add some different context into how you've supported Nathan with kind of his decision-making, process throughout his life. I know he's a young guy, so I think this would be very, kind of relevant for some of those individuals that, as we're approaching that transition age, going into adulthood and everything else, like, I think your perspective would be very interesting to kind of look at some of those. So can you talk about a little bit about how you currently assist Nathan with kind of that decision-making process right now?
Well, when we started this journey, and Nathan had turned 18, we'd had a meeting, tried to figure out what we were all going to do. Guardianship was brought up to us at that point in time. Nathan was against it. He wanted nothing to do with us still having to say how he runs his life. So what we had to do was become a unit, a family unit, and explain to Nathan, of the kind of give him a bargaining. Okay, if we help you with this, let's wait a year, see how it works out with guardianship. If it doesn't, Dad and I will sign it off. We've had to watch our boundaries. Like my ex-husband and I tend to overstep our boundaries, and we got to step back and let Nathan learn from those things that he has. So I choose my battles wisely. there are a few battles that I won't let go of, and then there are those that, you know what, I got to say, Mom, you were overstepping here. And Nathan will say, Mom, I got this. So that's when I know that I can't say much. And
Yeah,
you mentioned a lot of things that really have been in effect. One of them is banking. Doctors, you know, I've had to, there are doctors that won't listen to him, that I've had to step in and say, look, you know, these are the issues Nathan is having. Um, what is it that we can do as a team to make this work? Are you guys still there? That's weird.
yep,
Yep,
we
we're
can still
here.
hear you.
Oh, yeah, there was a phone.
Yeah.
In his SSDI, like right now, it's been revoked. You know, basically, they're saying no, he doesn't qualify. So that's where his dad and I come in to help him a little bit with that. Um, we've just we just have really good support between the three of us. So, and like I said, some days I just have to let go. Um, and then he'll come back to me and he'll ask me, Mom, do you think I'm making the right decision? And then that's when I guide him into a better how to better make a decision. Um, you know, the biggest mistake I think I've made was letting him move out and have a roommate. That's been hard. um,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit difficult, right? With kind of going out and kind of living on your own, kind of finding out a little bit about what that looks like. Can you talk about, because I thought it was kind of interesting how you alluded to kind of those boundaries and kind of helping him with that and having a good family unit. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of what you mean by that and kind of what makes a pretty good family unit with helping Nathan kind of make some of those decisions?
well, the first thing we got to do is listen to each other. And with Nathan's cognitive problems, even more so, because he in his head can figure what he wants, but for some reason it doesn't come out that way. So we really have to kind of look at A and B and say the pros and the cons. Um, and it takes Nathan a day or two to think about those things. And then we can come back together and say, hey, you know, I just overstepped my boundaries in front of your friends by telling you, no, you can't go do that. That's he's old enough now that if he's going with his friends and they're going bowling or something, I shouldn't have any say in that at all. But if I know that he has friends and I know they're going to be drinking, I say, Nathan, it's not a good idea when you're around people like that that's going to drink. And he says, yeah, Mom, I know you're right. I'm not going. So there, I'm not telling him what to do, but I'm basically making sure that he knows that there's right and wrong. And he's very good at making right or wrong decisions. A lot of times when he gets really down and out, he'll call me and he'll ask me to help him get his medication straight or whatever the case may be. Of course, I'm just going to tell you honestly, most of that work was done by Josh. Josh just had a way with Nathan that was unbelievable. And so he would discuss it with me, and then I'd say, well, what did Josh say about that? Because it's different talking to your mom about it than having somebody listen to you and have a perspective from an outside view. So actually, Josh became my crutch because I relied on him, Nathan, to talk to him and guide him. So that I have to give him that credit, actually. Um, Ted and
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Ask the next.
No, I think it's very interesting that you kind of say that of, you know, kind of providing kind of that information that people need of, you know, hey, if you choose to do this, here are maybe some of those consequences to that decision. You're, again, kind of to your point, you're not making that decision for them, but you're helping them, or you're helping Nathan in this point with understanding what could happen, right? And he's still making that decision at that point in time. Now, can you talk a little bit to Josh? I guess I'm not as familiar with Josh, but I guess having another person to maybe go to and have that different perspective.
Are we going to Josh or am I talking about Josh? Well,
Oh,
when Josh was brought into the picture, it was kind of down to the wire time. And, he started making medication lists for Nathan, had phone numbers on his phone, showed him how to download, alarms and stuff like that to help him get through a day by day. And all of those things, I couldn't have done that with Nathan. Nathan would not have listened to me. That's why I rely a lot on the resources, to be honest. Dawn, I don't know where we'd be without Dawn. She jumps in there and there's a question asked and she gets back right away with an answer. And Nathan just adores her. So he's like, never mind, Mom, I'm going to call Dawn. I'm like, good idea. But yeah, that's what's helped us the most is being open-minded, flexible, and staying in that I'm not mad at you for the decision you're making. I'm not going to condemn you for anything. I just want to work this through with you.
yeah, and I think that's so key to what you just said right there is that, it's not you don't come at somebody with saying, oh, you're shaking your finger, right, at Nathan. It's more so of, hey, maybe you made this decision, maybe it wasn't the best decision. So what do you think that we could do differently maybe next time? Or how do we kind of, resolve that, maybe whatever happened out of that decision? And it's not necessarily the fact that he's maybe not, there's no repercussions from that decision or anything else like that, but it is kind of talking through what happened and helping him out with that. And that's awesome. And kind of what I'm hearing too is that it's not only just that kind of family unit that Nathan has, but it sounds like the other people surround him, whether again that's Dawn, as that ISC that's in his life to help him kind of again have the services and the supports that are there with him. And it sounds is Josh a direct support person?
No, he's not anymore, but he has Felix, so he still has somebody. I wanted to say something on that. I forgot what it was. Went straight out of my head. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child. I believe that. That's what my parents used to say. You don't just raise, you got to have people that care and have that ability to take you one step further because you didn't know. I mean, like, there are things out there. I didn't know Josh was available until Dawn said something, and then it just all went from there. It was great. I do. I'm going to tell you a little story about me and Nathan. Nathan and I are very close. And when he turned 18, I let him have a birthday party at the house. And he only invited one friend because really that's all he's got. And I let him stay up all night long.
Oh, Lisa, I think you might be muted now.
And next morning, his friend had a seizure. And I called the squad and, he had a seizure. And Nathan, having guardianship for him, no one is allowed to question him without his father or I present. So they took him outside and I hear them in the window questioning him and say, son, we got to know what you guys did last night. We need to know any pills you took, blah, blah, blah. And this is my son. My son goes, all right, I had 4 Mountain Dews and 3 donuts. And I think Michael had 4 or 5 Sprites, and then he had like 5 donuts. Maybe I had more donuts. I'm not sure. And I'm hearing this, and I know what these guys are looking for. They're looking for trying to figure out if these kids did drugs. So I went down the steps and I said, come on in because I don't want you to question him any further. I said, I will help you walk through this. So I said, well, when he had the seizure and he dropped, and they looked at me and they said, he had a seizure? I said, yes, 911, I called for a seizure. And so my son's like, Mom, do you think that his parents are ever going to let me hear again? So we get to the hospital. The boy wakes up unconscious. He was unconscious when we got there. And the doctor says, do you know where you are, son? He goes, no. He goes, what's the last thing you remember? Eating donuts and drinking a lot of pop. So at that point, I was like, I had to intervene on that because they were trying to drill him for something that he had no idea what they were talking about. He just thinks he ate too many donuts and had too much pop. So anyway, that was when I first realized he was glad that I was there for him. And even though he fought us in the beginning, now he will be the first person to tell you that he's glad he has a guardian.
Well, and it goes back to that trust piece of things too, that you've built that trust with him, and you've been able to facilitate a way for him to kind of make decisions for himself. And again, it is not really ridiculing him; it's those kind of things. And I think that's pretty awesome that you have kind of established that great relationship with Nathan and surrounded him with that team to best support him. What would kind of be your recommendation or advice for, as kind of like when this process began for you at that age 18? So as people are kind of entering into that age 18, maybe they're starting that conversation of guardianship, or it's being brought up to them. What would kind of be your recommendation for those kind of people that are maybe approaching and going into that early kind of adulthood?
Mine would be, make sure that you know what you want for them, and take that and discuss it with them. And the hardest thing is knowing your child. Nobody knows your child more than you do. And so when it comes down to the decision, and two people, three people were making it, I wanted Nathan to be very informed. He asked, he has to. That's how he lives day to day. If you're going on a trip, the map has to be drawn out from step A to step Z. I have to write out how that trip is and journey is going to be, and what we got to do next, and what's going to happen. As long as I keep him understanding what is going on, I don't know how to explain this. He's just one of those people that he has seen that I'm not going to rule his life. I'm not. I just need to be there when there's an emergency situation, or just be there to help guide him. I'm not there to run his life. I want him to be able to make his own decisions. I want him to be able to live on his own. I look back as a mother and I think, man, my kids, I did their laundry, I fed them meals, and now they're eating out of boxes of food because mom's not cooking. They're trying to figure out how to do their own laundry. And those are things, I wish I had taught my kids growing up instead of having to do it now. But Nathan is happy with having a guardian.
Mhm.
It makes him feel safe. And the reason it makes him feel safe is just one of the incidents I told you about. He was waiting at his work one time, and the sheriff showed up because the alarm went off. And Nathan had to say, I have a guardian and I need you to call them. So that makes him feel safe. And I would recommend listening to your child. Just listen to their feelings and their emotions and ease them with it. Don't get angry, don't get hurt. Just stay focused on the right thing to do. And that's what I would recommend. So
Thank you. And I guess my last follow-up question to you, and I know we have one question in the chat that we'll answer, but I guess did you figure all this out like overnight, or was this like a process over many months, many years? Is it still an ongoing process of figuring out how to best help Nathan and kind of figuring out, I guess, what is in, helping him be more informed and everything?
no, because you can never have all the answers. It has to be, it's pretty much a daily basis. Um, I'm not going to say a daily basis. I'm going to say when we really need to work something out. Like right now, me and his dad are trying to work on some of his. He's got 211 working his finances. And that put his dad and I out, which made it great because now we don't fight over money anymore, paying the bills. He's got somebody doing that. So that's new. That's something that just happened recently. So it's an ongoing process.
Yes, well, thank you. And I think that kind of goes back to your earlier point of having those good boundaries and being able to, again, you can be mom, you can help them with kind of, through those different kind of processes and everything else, and dad can be dad and those kind of things. So that's awesome that you guys have worked through that and everything. So
Not been
thank
easy.
you. I'm sorry, Lisa.
It hasn't been a perfect road. I mean, Allison and Wonder, she's not going to walk down it, but anyway.
Well, yep. Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent point, is that, this road is not it's not an easy road, right? It's not going to be something that's it's going to be figured out tomorrow for somebody, or maybe in months, and maybe it may take several years, and it may be an ongoing process. So, but that's awesome that you work with Nathan through all that, and thank you for sharing your story and his story through this. So,
Well, I hope I helped you out some.
absolutely, thank you so much. I know that we did have one question in the chat, so just about clarifying Dawn and Josh and Nathan's life. So Dawn is actually his ISC, so that is individual support coordinator here at the county board. So that works with him on kind of coordinating county board services. And then Josh, Lisa, did you want to clarify who Josh was again?
Josh was his service. He came out and helped life coach.
Okay.
He was his life coach.
Thank you. All right, I think we're going to transition a little bit to, I think we have Ida and Alan on the line. Are you guys there?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Hi.
you are.
Hi there. Well, thank you for joining us today. Yeah, I know that you.
Glad to meet you too.
Yeah, very, very nice to meet you guys. I know it's kind of over the phone and we're doing this virtual, but we definitely appreciate you guys being here on the phone. And if you guys are okay with it, I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and we'll kind of go from there. And I might try to dig a little bit deeper into kind of what you say a little bit. But I guess, first of all, I think Alan and Ida, can you just maybe talk about just how you guys are, how, Alan, you are supported, and then Ida, just how you support Alan.
Sure. I'm Alan's sister-in-law, and Alan lives with my husband and me. And I think he could tell you about the way we make decisions together. I think Alan can.
I make my own decisions.
Yes, he does make his own decisions. And that's been our number one goal as we've put together our little family. We came together kind of suddenly when other negative things happened in Alan's life. But right from the start, our goal was to let Alan drive the bus, let Alan make as much of the decisions about his own life as he can within our little family.
I was abused from my elder brother Bud. I was punched, kicked, dragged, almost run down outside steps, and he did everything to me. He did it.
But now Alan lives with us, and we're working together with Alan to find the things that he needs to have a good life. So we found good health care, good mental health care, because he has PTSD and needs support on that side. Dawn, our ISD, has really helped us find all the resources, even spiritual and religious resources. She helped us find, because Alan is a spiritual person and I'm really not, but Dawn helped us find spiritual support for him that's tailored to developmentally disabled people. So he's loving that.
And also, I love to build models, and we go by truck books.
So we work together to find things to use his free time in ways that support his hobbies.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, can you talk a little bit about that, Alan, as far as your hobbies and those kind of things that you like to do, and how does your family support you in doing that?
Well, a recent example would be your NASCAR schedule. You could talk about that.
My first endeavor is my NASCAR schedule.
The schedule for next year's or this year's 2021 has just come out. So Alan saw it in the newspaper, and then I went online to find the schedule and get it printed so that he can have it on his bulletin board. And he looks forward to those races through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I like to go to see one. I like to go down to Daytona to see the races.
When Alan was younger, he used to travel a lot with his mom to the NASCAR races, and they went on bus trips together. But we haven't been able to replicate that. So he watches them on television and then reads. He's a really good reader, so he reads a lot about NASCAR.
And I build models. I got one truck, one car, two stock cars already built.
Well, it sounds like must be a pretty talented. I'm not sure. Is that a modelist, or is that? I'm not sure what that's exactly called, but that's pretty cool that you get to do that.
I build them and I paint them.
Awesome. So and you said that you guys kind of became a new family kind of unit there. Can you maybe kind of talk a little bit about kind of what the challenges and maybe how did you guys kind of work through some of those different challenges to because Ida, I know you said that Alan's a very spiritual person and you are not so much, but working with Dawn, being able to go and find places for him to, be able to practice that spirituality. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys have maybe kind of done that piece of things?
That was, Dawn was able to find us a church that has a support group, not a support group, but a Bible study group that is just for developmentally disabled folks. And for a while before COVID, it was an on-site group, and we went there. And the people who run it have worked for years with this population, and they have lots of ways to do the communications just for them, and to have a way to help them feel connected. And then when after COVID hit, they started doing it by Zoom meetings once a week, and we found that the attendance actually grew. So more people were able to attend, because they didn't need a ride, they didn't need to leave their group setting. So the group has actually grown during the time of COVID. We've been really helped by that. Last night they had it's on Monday nights, and last night they had a prayer at 7:00. They prayed for the nation at 7:00. So they were joining hands with lots of groups from around the country to do that. So that's something that I would not have, been able to do for Alan. It's something that instead he's part of a group separate and different from us.
And also, I go bowling every Tuesday.
Bowling is a big. He had a great day today. 135 scored. It was the best in a long time.
I think that might actually beat me, so that's pretty good.
It would me too.
Also, we go on field trip. We go to one day we go to Janesville, one day we go to Columbus, next day someplace else. I go out with my buddy from Pals.
Awesome. Well, and Alan, can you talk, what does that group mean to you with being connected to other people that, you know, if you weren't connected to them, what would you be doing? I mean, what does that group mean to you, I guess?
I like it for, I can't say a job, but
Oh, are you talking about pals, or are you
Yeah, I'm
talking
sorry,
about, is your question about his church group?
yeah, about his church group, being connected there. Yep.
Oh, your church group.
we go out one day, one way we go to nursing home, we pass out candy and say Merry Christmas to them, you know, and they really enjoy that.
And that's a great way for Alan to feel of service to others.
Awesome. Yeah, because that sounds, oh, go ahead, Alan.
Like I said, we go out. We went out one time and we went to the old folks' home, passed out candy and sing Merry Christmas to them, and sing Christmas carols, you know, and visit everybody in the home.
Awesome. Now, Alan, what kind of help do you ask for from Ida?
What was the question?
What kind of help do you ask for from me? What are the kinds of things that I can do that help you out?
Let's try to think of one.
How about doctor visits?
Doctor visits.
Your health insurance?
My health insurance phone calls. Go take me to the hospital.
Yes.
I was in the hospital for 5 days. I forget for what though.
The hospitalization was one of the things in your preliminary questions that you sent out ahead of time for us to think about. Alan's hospitalization was one of the things that I look back on as something I could have done better, because it was right after COVID hit and we were not allowed to visit Alan in the hospital. He was hospitalized for 5 days with a kidney infection, and he has stage 3 kidney disease, a kidney infection, and then he also had appendicitis. So he had surgery to remove his appendix, and we couldn't visit him or be with him or help him communicate with his healthcare staff at the hospital. And I found out later that through Fairfield's developmental disabilities and really at a state level, they had already said that families with someone who needed to have someone help them communicate could visit. But I didn't find that out until later, and I hadn't reached out during his hospitalization. So that's one of the things that I would say I could have done better. If I had, reached out to Dawn or, even looked online or something, I probably would have discovered that instead of waiting at home and trying to handle things on the phone with a really overtaxed, overworked hospital staff, I could have done that better.
Well, I think definitely during this time and in this season of life that we're experiencing, I think we certainly show a lot of grace during this time. And I think that we've all learned a whole lot of different things throughout this process. In addition to kind of what you just spoke about in regards to that healthcare piece, and what are some other things that maybe were either just challenges or that maybe you have learned both for Alan and for you, Ida, too, to help support Alan through this? Because again, this has been a very challenging time, I think, to help people with the decision-making process. But what are some things that you've learned maybe through this current season that we're in, with helping people with kind of making some of these decisions, or maybe understanding what kind of decisions to make, whether that's, wearing a mask, whether that's, being safe out there?
It has been particularly challenging about whether or not Alan should stay home and stay safe and not go anywhere, or if he should continue with his pals outings and go out someplace every day. That what they're doing is doing something outdoors and outside of their center every day. So they go in a van with a limited number of people, fewer than 5. But still they take a walk at the mall, they go to parks where they use the restrooms at parks. So there are risks at every stage of that. Every day could be a different kind of risk. But the choice then is, does he stay home and lose ground every day? Because that's what happened in those early days of the pandemic, when we were totally staying at home and not going anywhere, not doing anything. And we could see week to week, Alan was losing ground. So the tough decision then is, does he go out and take some risks, or does he stay home and continue to lose ground? Once PALS reopened and gave us those opportunities to do some outdoor things, we talked about it with Alan and stressed how, because he really, of course he loves it, of course he wants to be there with others and get that community involvement and intellectual stimulation, all the things that are benefits. Of course he wants that, but we had to stress again and again that it's an added responsibility on his part then to wear his mask, stay separated from others, wash his hands. But together we decided that it's worth the risk, and we're just going to work with him with constant reminders and cues and the ways that we can be helpful to make sure he has the materials, make sure he has hand sanitizer and masks at hand and reminders to use them. But that was particularly difficult for all of us. But I'm sure that's like all families right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we talk about just the risk, whether it's, in this current season of dealing with COVID, but just looking at the risk too of people getting jobs or people going out into the community and getting involved in community activities, those kind of similar types of things do kind of come up as well. So I think your point of, balancing what that looks like and how to do that and how to have maybe some of those conversations and in this case, involving Alan through that process and talking about that. Because Alan, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you like going to your day program?
Every day.
Every day, yeah.
Oh, I like it very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes we stop for hot chocolate or a Frosty or someplace, we go to like Wendy's to have a Frosty, or go to the mall, have hot chocolate, and have our lunch there in the mall, and walk around the mall.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have some friends there too. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And you can talk about your friends, like Brittany and
like Brittany and PK and Jeff and that's and
the staff.
And the staff.
Yeah.
Now, and this will be, I think this will be my last question, and then maybe we'll kind of open it up to everybody else to, if you're okay with that, Ida and Alan, and then also if Lisa's still on, just to maybe just kind of ask some general questions, just to see if they have maybe more specific questions out there. But can you talk about, because I think if I know a little bit, and again, I don't know you personally, but I think maybe this with Alan kind of moving into your home, that might have been kind of unexpected. And again, you guys, like you said earlier, became a quick family that way, and helping him to kind of support, what it is that he wants to do and everything else like that. How how was it, I guess, that you, how do I want to say this, that, I guess, what kind of changes did that kind of affect in your life, Ida? And then just how did you kind of maybe work past that in order to, help Alan with making sure that he's able to understand, some of the things that are in front of him and the decisions that he has to make?
Well, that's kind of a two-part question, I see. First of all, the change for me came at a time when I had just retired from, I was a health insurance marketing professional, and I retired on October 26th, and Alan came to live with us on November 3rd. So I really just had a few days of retirement without being Alan's caregiver. And then right away, we moved from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area to here in Ohio. And the first thing we had to do was get Alan into the medical assistance system here in Ohio, which was different from Pennsylvania, and then find a day center for him, find things for him to do. So for a while, the first few months that we lived in Ohio, it was as if my full-time job was getting Alan situated with his medical specialists and his primary care physicians and dental care, vision care, mental health care. All of those things had to happen all at once. We just worked hard to get all of that taken care of.
I used to work at Giant Eagle for 19 and a half years.
That's right. Alan worked at Giant Eagle as a grocery bagger and a union worker for almost 19 years.
And I retired from that. Then I went down to Triple for 6 years.
And Triple was his day setting in the Washington, Pennsylvania area. So he had to leave that and come to Ohio with us. And we found the places and providers for him here. But the second part of your question then was how some of the ways that Alan and I work together and what I've found works for us. And one of the things in particular that I think other families could find helpful, or other support people could find helpful, is that in every situation where Alan is expected on his own to make a decision or has to play a decision-making role alongside me and my husband, I make sure that the first part of that conversation, whether it's with a doctor or a mental health professional or a social worker or a bank, somebody at the bank, I make sure that I own that first part of the conversation so that I can go over with Alan the things that he and I have talked about earlier, because we always go through this with some repetition a few times before we have the actual meeting or phone contact. I make sure that during the first minutes of those conversations, I go over it with Alan and make sure Alan responds with more than just a yes or no answer, with real information, so that third party person knows Alan's abilities and interests, make sure that they know his communication needs. And that sets the tone for that particular decision. So it means that it's not just somebody who might take advantage of him or somebody who might ignore his needs. Instead, it's somebody who is engaged because they've heard that first few minutes when Alan and I are talking to each other, going over the information. Oh, Alan?
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah, I'm engaged to my girlfriend. I've been engaged for how many years?
Oh, yes. Alan's girlfriend passed away 6 years ago.
But 6 years ago, she passed away, and she wants me to get married to her. And I spoke to her family, her mom and dad. He told me, Alan, I got a favor for you. What do you want, Miss Edwards? If you want my daughter, I'll let you marry her. That was all she wrote. That's all.
Whoa, and that's something that Alan and I haven't talked about for a long time. So I don't know where that came from.
That was Mr. Edwards told me, you know. And me and her went to school together, grade school. And me and her went to Pittsburgh to the circus together. We went out together. We had dinner together, and we go out quite often with me and Joanne go out quite often. And then I had her birthday. She went out. We went out for her birthday. I had mine. She went out for my birthday. You know, we had a good time.
Yeah. And sometimes I have to wrangle Alan back into the conversation. So we're going to do that right now, right? We were talking about the ways that you and I make decisions together.
Oh.
But it's nice to hear about Joanne.
And you and I, we don't fight each other. We don't fight. We don't argue with each other.
That's not how we communicate.
No.
Now,
Well, what I'm saying is, if something goes wrong, I have to tell you real quick. And if I don't, then I'm in hot water.
yeah,
And in the
that's how it
night thing too, she make my lunch in the morning when I leave. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's just right. Yes, we do. We make
and
lunches together.
In the morning, when I get up in the morning, I take my shower and brush my teeth, shave, and anything else, and dress. And I shouldn't put my laundry. I shouldn't say that over the phone. But
No, that's okay. Let's go back to what we were talking about.
No.
We were talking about making decisions.
I make really good decisions. Like if I want to look for a job in the Southern Coast, me and others would talk about that. We would talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
A recent decision that we made was going away for the weekend to your respite camp.
we
Can
did
you
that.
talk about how we do that? Because
Sure.
that's
I went to camp this year, and I had a good time, and I made a microwave out of a cardboard box,
yes.
and a rocket, and I was coloring, and she said, "You want to do craft, and you want to do color?" I just want to color, you know, and.
But one of the things we talk about with camp is respite for me too. So I get a day off on Saturday when Alan's at camp. But their expectations are much higher now because you have to wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from the other campers. There are fewer campers than there used to be before COVID. So he has to decide that if he wants to go to camp, will he be able to play by the rules and stay 6 feet away and wear a mask all the time? We
only had 22 people this year in camp.
This was just last week.
This last week.
Well, I think that it definitely sounds like you guys have a wonderful relationship that, you know, you guys can obviously talk through these things and in a way that, you know, best supports Alan with making those decisions and everything else. So I think that is awesome that you have that. And I think what I learned today is don't argue with the person helping you make your lunch. So I'll make sure to remember that.
And in another thing too, and I'm reading a book on CDL. I've been being a truck driver, and that's one of my goals.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, and I'm sure that you're probably walking through that process to learn maybe a little bit of what that takes and everything, right? So that's awesome.
Yes. And another thing too, and I love to build cars and trucks. And I love to build them.
Yep, you sound like a car guy.
If I had the money, I'll go out and buy another model, you know, right away. Not right away, but you know,
Well, do you mind, Alan, if we maybe open this up to if we have some other questions for you, for Ida, or maybe for Lisa as well? Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other questions or anything else for our panelists today? And again, I appreciate everybody being on here, and again, Alan, Ida, and Lisa for being a part and kind of sharing their stories and what they've done to support their loved ones in their lives. So thank you guys for being on.
But thank you for having me.
I have a question for Ida. I was wondering if you've encountered any roadblocks as far as being able to support Alan without, I didn't hear, if I missed it, I'm sorry, as far as if you're his legal guardian or a power of attorney, or if you've encountered any roadblocks, if you don't have any of those things as far as being able to support him and at the same time.
That is a really good question. No, we don't have guardianship, and we did meet with an attorney several years ago when we became part of Alan's life to help him with finances only. So we knew from that early conversation what it would mean to be a guardian and whether or not it could be helpful. But so we've known for a long time that we didn't think we needed that. And in all of the things that we've helped Alan with, now that he actually lives with us and is, we're part of the family group with him, it has not come up that we were limited in anything that we couldn't overcome without a guardianship. But one of the things that Alan doesn't do is Alan doesn't drive. Alan doesn't go anywhere, do anything where we're not part of it, or he's with his pals group. So I can see that if Alan lived on his own, or had more, I don't want to say freedom, but more opportunities to be taken advantage of, or to get himself into difficulties, I can see where it could be helpful. But for all of Alan's mental health issues and medical issues and financial troubles, everything we've been able to take care of just by working with him as the decision maker, helping him understand, whatever the issue at hand is, and then letting him sign off on things. But that's not to say that we just turn our backs on him and let him go off on his own. Instead, we work with him side by side and make sure that he understands, and then on his own he can sign for himself. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you. And I'd just like to thank you and Alan and Lisa for your contribution and for helping us see both kind of perspectives, I guess.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
I know we're kind of approaching some of our time here. So if there's not any other questions, Josh, is there anything that you want to say or anything that you maybe want to touch on before we hop off or anything?
I had some video stories queued up, but I don't think they're going to tell any story any better than Lisa, Ida, and Alan did. So I'm very impressed with not only just your storytelling, but the approaches that you've decided to take. So I did take a couple of notes that might be a good sort of wrap up just on some of the themes. So I'll share some of those and then maybe we can finish up. First of all, this can be done a lot of different ways. And we heard about that today, right? It's going to look different for everybody. I heard stay informed, whether that's being there with the person so you can explain things, or finding the information and making sure that we discuss it with them. We help them know what's going on. We keep them in the know. And then listen to each other and work together. And Lisa set the precedent for that when she was talking, when she said, really listen, really know what they want and what you want for them, for their future. And then we also heard that this touches all areas of life. There are decisions to be made all the time: money, relationships, work and career, our health, staying safe, what to do with our free time. And this applies whether or not we have a disability, right? We all have decisions to make in all of these areas of life. And there are going to be some hard ones to make too, and some risks to balance. And it's not always going to be clear what the right decision is until after we've made them and carried some of them out. So we might make mistakes, but being able to talk through things like consequences and pros and cons, again, those are all just natural parts of life. Lisa talked a lot about boundaries, which I thought was great. Revisit these over time. Be willing to give some ground here and there. Talk about what we're going to gain from setting different boundaries. And then both of you talked about just don't try to do this alone. We all need support. So whether that's your ISC or a service provider or a neighbor, community groups, people from church, bowling groups, whatever it is, we know that being connected to other people helps us keep safe and healthy and happy. And then finally, it's a learning process. But it sounds like in both situations, you're looking for those opportunities to grow. So again, really commend you. Thank you for sharing those stories. Very impressed with what you had to say.
Bye.
Well, I want to thank Lisa, Alan, Ida. Thank you guys for being a part of this call, and for everything that you do to support the people that are your family members and a part of your lives and everything else. So thank you for doing that and being on here. Just as a reminder, this call or this series has been recorded. This will be available on our website. So you should be able to view 1, 2, and now today, finally 3. So this will all be available on there. And hopefully this has been, helpful for everybody here. And as we move forward to, if this is something that can be a great resource to individuals and families and everything else, as we kind of, again, still promote this idea of supporting people where they're at and staying connected. And again, building that community within, not only just family, but that greater community too for that person, just like what Josh touched on. So I'll kind of leave it at that. But thank you all for being a part of this. And again, thank you. Couldn't do this all without any of you all. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yes.